I still remember the smell of diesel and burnt coffee when my parents pulled over, turned to me and told me to get out of the car. I was 14 years old, standing under flickering yellow lights at a truck stop off a highway I didn't even recognize. And the last thing my mother said to me before the car door slammed shut was, "Grow up and stop being a burden." Then they drove away. No goodbye, no explanation. Just me, a backpack I hadn't even packed myself, and a buzzing emptiness in my ears where my entire life used to be. I'm telling you this now because even years later, I still ask myself the same question. Was I really that terrible of a kid? Or were they wrong for what they did to me? Before anyone jumps to conclusions, let me rewind to how my life actually started, because it wasn't always like that. I was the middle child, the invisible one sandwiched between an older brother who could do no wrong and a younger sister who was treated like she was made of glass. My brother was a star athlete. Honor roll, teachers loved him, coaches praised him, neighbors compared their kids to him. My sister was the baby, the miracle child after a difficult pregnancy. Always protected, always defended. And then there was me. Average grades, quiet, emotional. I wasn't bad. I wasn't wild. I wasn't rebellious. I was just inconvenient. My parents like to say, I was too sensitive. If my brother teased me until I cried, I was told to toughen up. If my sister broke something and blamed me, I was told I should have been more responsible. I learned early that speaking up only made things worse. So I stayed quiet. I tried to be helpful. I did chores without being asked. I stayed out of trouble. I thought if I made myself small enough, they'd eventually notice how easy I was to love. Spoiler alert, they didn't. Things really started to go downhill when I hit 13. Puberty, mood swings, all the normal stuff, but my parents acted like I had personally decided to ruin their lives. I struggled in school that year, not failing, but slipping from straight B's to C's. Instead of asking if I was okay, my dad started calling me lazy. My mom sighed loudly every time the school called about anything, even small stuff. "Why can't you be more like your brother?" became her favorite sentence. I stopped telling them how I felt because every conversation ended with me apologizing for existing. Money was tight, and they never let me forget it. Every meal, every school supply, every pair of shoes came with a reminder. "Do you know how much you cost us?" my dad would say. I started skipping lunch at school to save money, even though no one asked me to. I'd tell myself it was fine. I didn't need much. I didn't want much. I just wanted to feel safe in my own house. The night everything finally snapped was over something stupid. It always is. I had forgotten to take the trash out. That was it. My dad exploded, yelling about responsibility, about how I never listened, about how they were tired of carrying me. My mom joined in, saying I was draining them, that I was old enough to know better, that they shouldn't have to babysit me anymore. I tried to explain I'd had a lot of homework that I just forgot, but my voice shook and cracked, and that only made them angrier. Then my dad said the words that still echo in my head. "If you don't like it here, maybe you shouldn't be here at all." Remember thinking it was just another threat, another cruel thing said in anger. I didn't realize they meant it literally. The next morning they told me to pack a bag. Not everything. Just enough. I asked where we were going. My mom said we were taking a drive and I needed to think about my attitude. I was scared, but part of me felt relieved. Maybe this was some twisted way of resetting things. Maybe they'd talk to me. Maybe they'd finally listen. The drive was long and silent. My dad stared straight ahead. My mom scrolled on her phone. I watched the scenery change. Houses turning into trees. Trees turning into nothing but road. I asked again where we were going. My dad finally snapped. "You'll see." My stomach twisted into knots. When we pulled into the truck stop, I thought we were just stopping for gas. My dad told me to grab my bag and come inside. I did. Inside, he bought a bottle of water and a cheap sandwich and handed them to me. Then he pointed to a bench near the bathrooms and told me to sit. I sat. I waited. 10 minutes passed. Then I noticed through the glass doors that our car was pulling out. I ran. I dropped my sandwich. I banged on the door. I screamed their names. I watched the taillights disappear into the highway traffic like they were being swallowed by the dark. That was it. That was the moment my childhood ended. I sat there for hours. I didn't know what to do. I didn't have a phone. They'd taken it away weeks earlier as punishment. I didn't know where we were. I didn't know who to trust. I was terrified someone would hurt me, or that I'd get arrested for loitering, or that this was somehow my fault. I cried until my head hurt and my eyes burned. People stared. Some ignored me. A trucker asked if I was okay, and I lied and said my parents were inside. Eventually, a woman who worked at the truck stop noticed me. She asked me where my parents were. I broke down. I told her everything in gasping, ugly sobs. She called the police. I remember shaking, convinced I was about to be in even more trouble. The officers were surprisingly kind. They gave me a blanket, asked me gentle questions, let me cry without interrupting. They tried calling my parents. No answer. They tried again. Straight to voicemail. That hurt almost more than being left. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't impulsive. They weren't coming back. Child Protective Services got involved. I spent that night in a temporary shelter, staring at a ceiling I didn't recognize, clutching my backpack like it was the only thing anchoring me to reality. I kept replaying my parents' words over and over. Grow up. Stop being a burden. I wondered if everyone else would see me the same way. The weeks that followed were a blur of paperwork, interviews, and uncertainty. My parents told CPS that I was unmanageable, that I had behavioral issues, that they feared for their younger child's safety. None of it was true, but I was 14, scared and soft-spoken. They were adults with confidence and matching stories. I felt invisible all over again. I bounced between short-term foster placements at first. Some were okay, some were awful. But even the okay ones felt temporary, like I was always waiting to be sent somewhere else. I stopped expecting anything good. I learned not to get attached. About halfway through this nightmare, I ended up with a foster mom named Linda. She wasn't perfect, but she was patient. She asked me how my day was and actually waited for an answer. She didn't yell when I made mistakes. The first time she told me I wasn't a burden, I cried so hard I couldn't breathe. This is the point where I want to pause for a second and talk directly to you. Put yourself in my shoes. You're 14. Your parents abandon you and tell the world you're the problem. You finally find a place that feels a little safe. Would you trust it? Would you believe it could last? Before I tell you what happened next, I really want you to think about what you would have done in my situation. Because just when things started to feel stable, my parents came back into the picture. They wanted visitation. They wanted to rebuild. They cried in meetings, said they'd made a mistake. Blamed stress, blamed money, blamed me without actually saying my name. I sat there silent while adults debated my life like I wasn't in the room. Visitation was hell. My mom hugged me too tight, like she was trying to perform motherhood. My dad avoided my eyes. They never apologized. Not really. It was always, we did what we had to do, or you pushed us. Every visit reopened wounds. I hadn't even had time to heal. The climax came when they petitioned for me to come home. CPS asked me what I wanted. For the first time in my life, an adult actually asked me that question and meant it. I was shaking, but I told the truth. I said I didn't feel safe with them. I said being left at that truck stop broke something inside me. I said I didn't want to go back. My parents were furious. They said I was ungrateful. They said I was tearing the family apart. My dad actually said, "See, this is what we mean. Always causing problems." Something in me snapped, but not in the way it used to. I didn't cry. I didn't apologize. I looked him in the eye and said, "You left me on the side of the road. You don't get to call me the problem." The room went silent. CPS denied their request. I stayed with Linda. My parents eventually stopped pushing. Then they stopped calling. Then they disappeared from my life entirely, just like they had that night at the truck stop. The aftermath wasn't some fairy tale ending. I still had trauma. I still struggled with trust. I still flinched at raised voices and panicked when people were late. But I also grew. I went to therapy. I finished high school. I learned that being sensitive wasn't a flaw. It was a sign I cared. Years later, I ran into my brother online. He apologized. He said he hadn't known how bad it was. My sister never reached out. My parents sent one email years after the fact, saying they hoped I was doing okay. No apology. Just distance wrapped in polite words. I didn't reply. Now, when I think back to that 14-year-old kid standing under buzzing, lights with a backpack and a broken heart, I don't see a burden. I see a child who deserved better. I see someone who survived something that could have destroyed them. And I know deep down that what my parents did was wrong, no matter how they tried to justify it. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. If you are on my side, go ahead and like this video. If you want to hear more stories like this, subscribe to the channel. And please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. Was I wrong for refusing to go back? What would you have done if you were me? I'll see you all in the next story.